In 2014, John Shuck shared on a video on the LEI website something called the Lean Transformation Model. And that's the model that we've been developing to guide transformations with our partner companies, companies that we've been working with, large and small, across a wide range of industries. And it includes the work that we've been doing with Halfway. So how we've actually structured some of that work and what we've been doing. And what I'm going to do over the next 25, 30 minutes is just draw upon the reflections that we can make from looking at this transformation model. But first, let's set the context by explaining what we mean by transformation. And I think the picture here, the caterpillar to the butterfly, a picture paints 1,000 words. Transformation's about a marked change, not just a small incremental change. And that change could be in terms of form, nature, character, or appearance. And in a business context, transformation's about a profound change that orientates the organisation in a new direction. And it takes the organisation to an entirely different level of effectiveness. If we step back in time, this is Dan and Jim's Lean Action Plan. It's on page 270 of Lean Thinking. And we were told that what we needed to do was to find a change agent, get lean knowledge, seize or create a crisis. And having got those in place, we were told to go and understand our value streams, map them, and then radically change, kaikaku, not kaizen them, transforming them before then expanding our efforts. Dan and Jim challenged us to create a new organisation, reconfigured by product family, to create a lean function, to develop a growth strategy, because all of those people that you freed up, you'd need to give them work. But he also told us to remove any people dragging the feet, any anchor draggers. And in the next few years, we'd be able to install a new business system using things like policy deployment. And during the latter stages of the transformation, we would apply these steps to customers, to suppliers, to do these things globally, and to transform from top down to bottom up decision making. It's not a bad list. 1996. I don't know whether they're even in here for me to kind of, yes, there they are, right at the back. It's not a bad list, and it's 18 years since they wrote that list. But we've learnt a lot in that period of time. For a start, as Terry said, we've learnt that doing lean is situational. It starts by understanding the problem that you're trying to solve. So maybe, with John starting to articulate our views on this transformation model, maybe it's time to introduce a way to think about lean transformation in the same way that Dan and Jim taught us to think about lean. Okay? So that's important, I think, because it's relevant to wherever you are on your lean journey. If you're just starting out and you want to be aware of what the elements are, what's required in actually doing these things. If you're trying to sustain and improve and move to the next level, then understanding performance gaps that helps you to that you need, the gaps that you need to close, it helps you to develop plans to close them. And whether you're a senior guy, or whether you're in an improvement team, or whether actually you're a leader of a frontline team and struggling for traction, understanding these elements of transformation, they're all equally important. So, excellent lean companies, if we go right back to first principles, excellent lean companies, they try to compress time. If you're making products or providing services, then time to market from concept to launch or from order to delivery, they're equally critical to success. And to do that time compression, each step of either of those value streams has got to be able to produce and deliver right first time on time. And through successive launches and through continuous improvement in less time. So the best lean companies, they employ lean principles, concepts, tools, and techniques to highlight problems that prevent them and hinder them from delivering right first time on time. They know whether they're behind or ahead, and they put countermeasures in place to get themselves back on track. So my question to you today, it's a challenging question, is can we apply right first time on time in less time thinking to lean transformation? I don't think we think that way about what we're actually doing. And that question, you might never even have thought about it. But if you were to think a little bit deeply about this whole idea of right first time on time, you've definitely thought about the symptoms of not being able to do these things right first time on time. You know, in the bar last night, several people said, you know, this is all great stuff, but I'm working with this guy and he just doesn't get what I'm trying to do. Or how do I speed up what I'm trying to do? Or how do I get my boss really engaged in this? They're all symptoms of us not really being able to articulate and think through how we do this more effectively. So if we wanted to be able to see this idea of right first time on time, if we want to be able to see if we were doing these changes, what would we have to do? Well, I think the first thing we'd have to do is we would have to grasp the situation. And actually, what we have to do in any situation is understand where we are. And as Terry said, there's 20 sites that they've got, and they've got different types of companies, and every situation needs to be thought through in terms of what it's about. You can't just put a cutter-cookie approach around each one of those sites. And if we grasp the situation and understand where we are, then what we need to do is we need to understand where we want to get to. A target condition or conditions for a set of factors that help us explain what we're trying to change. We have to be explicit about what we're trying to change. So in other words, we'd actually have to define the problems we were trying to solve, the gap or gaps between the way things are now and the way they're supposed to be or we expect them to be in the future. The gaps we're trying to close. And that's where the lean transformation model comes in. Because it's a framework for trying to think about the transformation we're trying to do. So when John shared this back in January, he stole probably. He used the house metaphor from Toyota. The house comprises foundations, 2 pillars, and a roof. And of course, many of your organisations are aware of Toyota's production system and of the house. Yesterday, Peter Watkins showed a house graphic. I'm sure Mark and Keith from Toyota have shown their Toyota production system house, and many other presentations have been looking at that. And many firms have actually tried to emulate and build their own houses, often by copying the elements. However, the transformation model is different in its intent. Instead of listing the tools and techniques used, or even the principles, things like Jidoka and just in time, and what we're seeking to do with this house is to communicate the questions that you need to think about when you're embarking on a lean transformation. And we've learned over the years each company's situation is unique, the circumstances are unique, and therefore what we need is a situational approach. However, we must remember that this approach is built around lean. And principle number 1 in lean, and one of the main things that separates this approach from many others, is that we need to understand customer value and value from the perspective of the customer. And that's why we've called this area of the transformation model value-driven purpose. And here what we're asking is, what's the purpose of the organisation? And more specifically, what's the problem that you're trying to solve? So Terry showed his house, but this is the the bit at the top of the house. And we did various things, really, various exercises, various iterations. They did lots of things internally in order to really get a concrete understanding of purpose. And you heard Terry talk about purpose in terms of mobility and in terms of hassle-free mobility for customers, which actually means being able to deliver right first time on time, every time, in less time. This is the key to starting the transformation, because what we must do is we must define where the gaps are at this level, so that we can so that we have things that we can work on. But of course, I know a lot of you will be thinking, oh well, yeah, okay, it's okay for him. He's the COO of a big organisation. What happens if I am not able to shape strategy? Not all of us are COOs. If you're not lucky enough to be able to shape strategy, there is hope, actually. This model and the question, what problem are we trying to solve, is fractal, just like broccoli. One little bit of broccoli is just like a bigger bit of broccoli. So it's equally applicable if we're actually looking at the issues in a department or even the performance of a team. Next thing we turn our attention to is the first of the two pillars. And on the left-hand side here, we've got operational or process improvement. It's the second distinct piece to Lean, really. What we're doing is we're focusing on the work that creates value for customers. And this is often where many of the Lean folks are comfortable and what many people see as being Lean. But actually, it's only one element of the total system. To see what we're talking about, let's look at some examples in our video Gemba. And again, this example comes from the halfway work that I've been doing with Terry and the team there. And what we've got is we've got two guys. We've actually already decided we're putting two guys on a car. And this is the first iteration of putting two guys on the car. The guy in the black shirt that's got the job card and he's going now to get the keys is Leroy, very experienced technician. The other guy actually that you'll see a bit later on is John Bakey, and he's actually the owner's son, and he's an apprentice technician in this dealership in Cape Town. So that they go through a whole series of steps here, checking the lights, going getting the job cards, etc., etc., etc. And the guys that are doing the work are looking at this work, and obviously in our case we're using the video to be able to see what the sequence of the steps are, so that we can see what's value creating and what's waste. In this case, first time through, I think the time is about 29 minutes with two guys working on the car. Standard time for that job, about an hour. So they're roughly at about 100%, something like that. Maybe 1 hour 15, I think, is the standard time. And as we start breaking all of this down, actually what we were able to see is the difference between value and waste. So let's move it a little bit further on. Having first of all looked at that work, the team, not some improvement specialists from outside, the team who managed the work, they learned to improve the work. And Terry said, no Lean team. These are little businesses. So they don't have the luxury to be able to have extra people. So no Lean team. And what's distinct about this approach really is that if you really realize what you need to sustain improvement is actually the people, the engagement of the people who work in those processes, then what you realize is the people who manage the work have got to learn to improve it. Otherwise, all you get is you just get one step change. Or every time we do some Kaizen, we get a step change. But actually, using this, the guys doing the work, actually improving the work, we get continuous change. So improvement then becomes part of the management system. And experiment 1, the guys started, they made some improvements. We speeded some of this up. And they decided to, in this case, to have the car driven in by the service advisor instead of the guy, one of the technicians going to get the car. Would save them some time. This guy is in the grey shirt here. This is a guy called Wayne. Wayne's the top tech, so he's kind of like the team leader, really. And what Wayne's doing is they've worked out a new sequence, and Wayne's trying to get that sequence just so that the guys know what the next thing is to do. First time they've tried this. So you start unpicking the work, but the guys are seeing the waste. That's the point. It's not some guys from elsewhere kind of coming down and suggesting a whole load of things and then kind of flying off after and leaving the guys to mop up the rubbish. Of course, for a group of folks interested in improvement, it comes as no surprise to find that first set of improvements gives us a productivity of 200%. Okay, so they spent maybe a day doing this type of stuff, and they come up with a 200% improvement in productivity. We're not surprised by that. We've all done those kind of heartburn numbers. And but whilst the team conducted multiple experiments to get to that level, that's really only one macro PDCA cycle. And actually, where they get to next is they do experiment. This one's number 4. They video it again. By this stage, we're kind of like off somewhere else, doing something else. And in the space of them doing this over 4 or 5 iterations, the time on an equivalent job went down from the 29 minutes down to 18 minutes. So now we're getting much closer to our original purpose aim of being able to hand the car back to a customer in half an hour and be able to do that car while the customer waits, meeting the mobility purpose for the customer. So that's fine, and all of us can focus on the work. Okay, so like I say, you're not surprised at any of that, and we've all done great Kaizen, and we've all had dramatic improvements in quality, delivery, and cost. But the second pillar of the model is actually moving beyond rapid improvement. And that's actually about developing capability. It's all about how we develop people. And we can explore that by thinking about a target condition. The target condition in this case is to build capability so people can do and improve themselves. And Terry talked about his 1,067 problem solvers. Taking the old skills matrix, the old classification, we can look at ability. From level 1, having knowledge of the work, through understanding, being capable, being able to do a job well, through being able to teach the job and improve it. Interestingly, it's only really knowledge of the work that's suitable to teach in a classroom, doing off-the-job training. Levels 2 through to 5 are actually better taught with actual problems and situations on the job with mentoring from capable supervisors, mentoring from people like Wayne. You can't develop skill just by sitting in a classroom. You have to practice. And that is quite different to what I see when I walk around and look at most people's lean programs. where basically there are big boot camps and lots of PowerPoints and lots and lots of certification, certification of lean folks. It's actually a complete nonsense. Teaching and learning, to build capability, you've got to design processes that develop people on the job. And developing people on the job needs to be explicit, not implicit, not just like a byproduct of something that you do. Developing people needs to be explicit. It's actually each leader's job to do that. And to develop people, you've got to have experiments. And so you've got to create those experiments in some way. And you need an experiment architect, if you like, somebody that knows how to develop experiments in order to be able to develop the people. And ideally, you should develop those experiments beginning from need, from the business need, and aim the training a level above what the organisation need is. So that what you're doing is you're stretching people, but you're also stretching the organisation. And the engine for this is well known to us. It's the PDCA, Plan, Do, Check, Act, the scientific method. Based on need means solving real problems that help close our performance gaps. Third piece, actually, is something that Peter Watkins talked quite a bit about yesterday. That's one of the things I asked him to talk about, was this whole area around the management system. And that's in the centre of the house. The focus here is on leadership and management. In particular, what we're doing is we're thinking about what management system we need and what leadership behaviours are required to drive the transformation. And that's tricky. And the reason it's tricky is that there are elements of these dimensions within the transformation that aren't as easy to see as perhaps doing the work. We can't see the work of management. Peter's developed all of those forms that he talked about, actually as an attempt to see the management system. But having said that, even though we can't really see them very well, some elements of this are well known. One such example is the Hoshin Kanri for the process of developing and deploying strategy. A second example will be managing teams using daily boards, the Obeya process and Obeya rooms, and so on and so forth. All of those things make it more easy for us to see this management system. It's also possible to define what leadership behaviours we need. Peter talked quite a lot about that as well yesterday. What's more difficult to do is to understand how well that's being done on a daily basis. You can have forms, but actually, unless you see it regularly, it's very difficult to be able to see what's being done on a daily basis. So therefore, we've run a series of experiments at Halfway, not only to develop daily team meetings, but to build their effectiveness. And Terry talked about visualization, standardization, and Heijunka. Part of the team meeting activity is around visualization. But in particular, developing PDCA and visual management, something that I actually rarely see when I go and look at different plants, even after they've won awards in some cases. The visualization should start the process of highlighting the problems. And we've done some formal problem-solving processing and teaching through A3 training. At the Gemba, we've been looking at the way leaders interact with their teams to develop problem-solving capability. And to do this, we've actually videoed team meetings. It's fascinating, to actually video the team meeting. It gives you an insight into the group, into what the dynamics are, and also what the strengths and weaknesses are of the meetings. So to show you what I mean, I've got a sales meeting here that we videoed in March. It's been running a while, this meeting. I'm just hoping that it plays nice and smoothly. It did this morning when we checked it, but the other ones were a little bit jumpy just. After the meeting, the sales manager, a guy called Kelvin, then carries out one-to-one training with each salesperson, and you'll see that happening. The sound on this is not great. I showed this to the group that I was with on Monday, but But really, it's not, for the purposes of today, it's not really the sound that you're after. It's more the structure and the process. So. What you'll also be able to see here is the types of questioning that gets used.
3 platser.
Ahmed, is that tomorrow?
Tomorrow at 10.
From Starvin? That letter of association has been sold out?
Yes, it is.
So this is daily deliveries, what cars have been sold, what's due to go out, etc. Next, we start looking at deals. Where are they up to? Are they behind or ahead on these individual deals? What's the progress of them? And Kelvin's the sales manager, and what he's doing is he's going through these line by line with each one of the sales guys which were in this team. So the other guy that's on the right hand side has just asked a series of open questions about models, about the market and about models. And by asking those open questions, what he's doing is he's encouraging this team to think.
And tell me on
Think about the gaps that they're trying to close, what issues there are with each individual model, and so on. Okay? So is it loosening up with the banks?
Are the banks still coming with higher deposits?
Yeah.
Are customers able to get credit? What's going on? What's changed? It's all very, very open questions.
What's changed?
We're getting more apps in.
And also we're getting apps in from the guys who doesn't belong to the association.
Okay.
So that's what's happening. Because the minute they belong to the association, the deposit should stop.
So the other salespeople just realize what she's just said now. If they don't belong to the association, your chances of getting advances through are bigger.
Much better.
Okay, and now this is moving to the one-to-one piece. So this is a sales manager and a sales guy making the performance of the sales process visible, and also being able to identify which area of the sales process this salesman actually needs to improve the overall sales.
I counted about 27 people that I saw yesterday.
Okay, so you saw 27, and all 27 was from the malls?
Was from Karisha Moya.
Okay. And
And again, using Edgar Shine's, these are purely factual questions. How many presentations did you do yesterday?
Big attraction, filtered the serious buyers to about 17.
So you presented 17 vehicles?
To 17 people, yeah.
Okay, 47. And out of that 17 people, how many applications did you do?
4 applications. The rest of the people were not ready yet, and some of them did not want to commit to the deal.
Okay. On your presentations, going well, you 2 over target.
Yeah.
On your applications, from your presentations, you're 13 under. So your conversion between your presentations and the applications is a leakage.
Okay, so presentations is okay. You're doing enough presentations. You're not getting enough applications out of the presentations relating to the target.
13. So what do you think is the problem between your presentation and application?
What do you think is the problem? Not, oh, you need to do this or you need to do that. Or remember the GKN session yesterday?
Use this first installment after 60 days concept and the cashback that we're introducing, just to get them more interested.
Look, that's a very, very small fragment of that video and of that process. But the point is, we're focusing on the work. We've got to make the work visible, even when the work's invisible. We've got to find a way to make the work visible. And then what we're trying to do is we're trying to develop the capability for problem solving, to develop people to be able to solve their own problems. And the way to do that is actually to get leaders thinking about the way that they ask questions in order to be able to develop that capability. So we're trying to do 2 things really, and I just think this is it's John Shuck's slide. I think this is the best, so succinct and it's so to the point. What we're trying to do here through these routines the daily meeting being one, and the one-to-one coaching being a second example, is to get each person to take initiative to solve problems and improve their job, and ensure that each person's job is aligned to provide value for the customer and prosperity for the company, trying to get the work done and develop the people at the same time. For the foundations of the house, we refer to the basic thinking, the assumptions and the mindset that underlies the entire system and that drives the transformation itself. This is really about the basic beliefs we as individuals have about the way that transformation works. And these beliefs and mindsets, they constitute the culture of the organisation. To use a practical example, the senior team at Halfway believes that the people closest to the work know most about it, and that we need to harness their knowledge so that the problems can be solved by the people doing the work. Terry's 1067 problem solvers. This thinking actually leads to the design of experiments to test that hypothesis and develop people at all levels. If that thinking wasn't aligned in that direction and the assumption made that only a few people in the organisation should be coming up with solutions, then we'd have a very, very different approach to the transformation. One that maybe developed the boot camp and the certification and all of the badges and all of those kind of things. This is in this case is about creating a continuous improvement organisation and identifying the right things to do to develop those people to close the gaps. So we've got 5 elements to the lean transformation model. What problem are you trying to solve? That leads us to a target condition, which helps us determine the situational approach for this particular transformation. Next, what we do is we look at the work, the operational improvement, asking how will we improve the actual value-creating work. Of course, we want to continuously improve, and that requires that people have the capability to do that. So our third question is, how will we develop people to work in new ways? Now we know what the problem is that we're trying to solve, what the work is that's required, and what the capabilities people need. We can then develop and design leadership behaviours and the management system required. And the question there is what leadership behaviours and management system is required to lead the work in this new way. This is a practical way to come at the issue of leadership and management, as it's closing their gaps that we've identified. It's not all the theory of management, it's just a practical way. And then question 5 addresses the basic assumptions, the mindsets that are required. What basic assumptions and mindset underlie this change? And actually, I would argue, I'm sure, we would argue, that all 5 of these aspects, all 5 of these elements have to be present. It's a system. It's not prescriptive. It's about experiments to try. And by asking these questions, fine-tuned to an organisation's circumstances, the organisation can transform faster and maybe one day right first time on time. So Terry gave you the practical results of applying this model. He showed you the work that he'd done around the halfway purpose, a definition of both customer and business purpose with an articulation of what halfway's doing around those 5 dimensions. When you take a look at the slides, what you see is that the people and the process in this one is the other way around to what I showed you, but essentially the content's the same. The art burn numbers are actually testimony to what the team's been doing across the business. And to conclude, because I know that I'm between you and having your morning coffee fix, the great thing about lean is that it's a journey. The more you learn, the more questions you have, and the more potential experiments you can make. And that is really the beauty of the job. That's why it's interesting and better than working for a living, really. Companies come along every now and then where you can learn together. And the work that we've been doing at Halfway is one of those such examples. And the results then actually are far more than they ever would be just by bolting a predetermined solution in place. So I'm very thankful that we continue to have organisations that ask us if we can help like that. Companies like Halfway and like Jaeger, where we can actually reflect openly and honestly in order to come up with new things. And the lean movement's got legs, really, only because it has examples and continues to create these examples. If we don't create these examples, we'd all be here and we'd be navel gazing. You know, we wouldn't really be celebrating the fact that we actually can develop these types of businesses. And you know, the challenge set out by Dan and Jim all those years ago, and specifically Dan for us working in the UK, was we need to create these examples and codify the ways those examples are created so that more can follow those pioneering examples. So let's try and do that with higher quality and a shorter lead time. Thank you.